And we're on, Sarah Jenkins.
What?
Listen, two broadcasters podcast here coming straight at you for another hot mic episode. I'm Lori Day, my beautiful co-host Sarah Jenkins. Sarah, did I get that sort of right this time?
I believe everything is right. Uh, all are accounted for.
Did I get your name right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We're off to
Did
a
you
great
in your
start.
head, did you put an H on the end?
No.
Oh,
Oh,
but
your first name. I'm just so
yeah,
on your track and messing up your
because
No, Sarah, I
if
didn't.
you silently left the H off, you're in trouble.
Oh, Sarah. I can't take it.
I'm
I
kidding.
honestly, but
No,
we are
we
here to
jest.
I know we do jest. And by the way, a quick little update from last week. Um, and Sarah, these two broads, we got on there last week and we talked about the new year. Kind of rambly, yet I loved it. I actually listened to it. I don't always listen to the cast. And probably I don't know what that says for myself. You take it for
I
what you
think
want.
that's normal. Yeah, it's like not watching yourself on TV or something. Yeah,
Oh,
you know.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's for sure because the YouTube thing, probably I'm not going to, technically wise, maybe I'm going to check in. But Sarah, honestly, let me just say,
It's
you know,
hard.
your broad's not all that with this film thing. Okay. But listen, do people want to see this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Then we give the people what they want,
That's
Sarah.
right. We're
It's
giving
not
y'all what you want.
it's not about me because if it were, there would be no YouTubing. All right. So, having said that, Sarah, I wanted to follow up on one thing. How's your January fast slash crazy diet going?
No, it's great. It's going great. I haven't missed anything. I feel great. I mean, and I don't struggle with cravings anyway. I don't really have any food addictions, but I will say of all the things I've given up this month, the one thing that it sometimes is a little hard for me. It's like, oh, I really miss that is my nuts and my seeds, my walnuts and my pumpkin seeds. I'm missing the walnuts specifically. I'll eat like pecans and Brazil nuts and things, but the walnuts and the pumpkin seeds, I'm missing them. I'm missing them.
Now, I did not take nuts off of mine. However, I'm out of walnuts. I'm like literally out of every nut. Uh, ex- but I do have pumpkin seeds, the ones you turned me on to, Sarah.
They're
Okay.
so good.
I'm all about them. And I mix them with sunflower seeds. And that's my kind of, I eat like a bird during the day. That's what I graze on. They're in my car. All right. Um, but I don't have nuts in the house. So I've kind of been off in nuts, even though, they're on my shopping list for tomorrow. But Sarah,
Oh,
I
there
will
you
say
go.
this. The other night, I really, and I don't do this every night, by the way, truly. All of a sudden I'm opening up my wine crate going, oh, I could do for just a glass of juicy red right now, baby. Okay. And I'm looking at the labels going, hang on, what? This ain't on my diet. I say
Nope.
diet. This is more, we're on a reboot, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah,
We're
it's
on a health
reboot,
reboot.
elimination. It's the January elimination reboot.
It is.
There
And
you
so
go.
I was like, ooh, we're just going to close this back up. All right. Do I miss things? I already texted you once about who you got for a non-grain chip because I got all this fantastic salsa and guacamole. By the way, I need a
Oh,
carrier. What kind of a carrier are we talking
well,
about right now?
you should like roast some vegetables and put on the guacamole on that. That would be
That's
amazing.
true, Sarah. If it
Mm.
if it were a meal, but after dinner, the kitchen's closed, babe. I'm not firing up the oven again.
Oh, okay. See, I don't eat after. I have a set time. Like I don't eat
And
after
and that's
my
the
last
thing.
meal. So
That's the thing. I am not really doing much of that either. Matter of fact, I've been really good about it. I think the latest I've put anything in my mouth has been like 7 o'clock. So
there you
we're
go.
doing good. Sugar, no, that's not bothered me. However, I'm a chocoholic, and I'm just going to go ahead and confess that. So, I don't consider the chocolate with zero sweetness to it to be, even though I do love dark chocolate, but there's a limit. Otherwise, I might as well just suck on a, coffee bean. You know what I'm saying? So I've had to battle the little chocolate thing, but it's very fleeting. It's no big deal. But on the plus side, Sarah, energy of a 7-year-old. That's all I'm trying to say. Um, my sleep has gotten better too since I stopped eating earlier in the day.
There you go.
I don't
Yeah.
know if that's one of the things, Sarah.
Well,
It's go ahead.
I would say I stopped snacking. That's one of the big things. I'm eating 2 meals a day. And I try to get that second meal in as early as possible, but there's no in between so that I'm not, because anytime you eat anything, even if it's super healthy, even if it's a steak, whatever, eggs, you're not spiking your insulin, but you're creating an
Right.
insulin response in your
Hmm.
body. And so I'm trying to limit, because the more we, enact that insulin, it's not, our body needs a break from that. So
Correct.
I am, and I'm not a huge snacker, but what I find is that when I'm home, because food is just there and readily available, I'm going and I'm like, oh, here, see, I'm in the walnut jar. I can't stay out of the walnut jar or the pumpkin seeds or whatever. You're kind of just grabbing a little of this, a little of that, and so that was my thing. It was like, okay, we're going to stop extra, insulin activity, and I'm gonna have my first meal, and then I'm gonna have my second meal, have whatever I want as long as it's allowed on my elimination plan that I'm doing this month. And that's it. And it's going really well. It's just, I do find that, how often I tend to, this is good for anyone to do, how often I tend to go for those easier things. When you're hungry, even if you're about to make a meal, there's always those easy, quick grab things. This is why I got rid of nuts and seeds for the month, because I know that I'm reaching for those a lot, like especially while I'm cooking a meal. Oh, I'm hungry. Let me have some nuts while I'm making the food, and so I wanted to kind of do away with the extras that my body, I don't necessarily need. Let's just take a break from it,
Hmm.
and so it's going really well. But I realize that, yeah, it's the easy things that you want to grab for, instead of the, let me chop this sweet potato up and cook it in the oven for an hour and a half or whatever, an
Yeah,
hour,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But you're right. And I do feel like like on the nights where I'm eating, like okay, the retirement home hours.
Oh.
Okay. I feel like, you know what? It's 6:30 and I feel like I want a little something, something. That's where the salsa thing came in. I felt like, it's not too late in the night yet. I'm just kind of calm down.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I'm still not firing up the oven. But you're
Yeah.
right on all counts in that I can confess to knowing the difference. Like I used to be a chronic snacker, and it's something I've gotten better about gradually.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm glad. Otherwise, I'd be having a really struggle right now. You know what I'm saying? But listen, Sarah,
You
like the
could do some raw
popcorn.
veggies. Get some cucumber and carrot
Yeah.
and dip in
Well,
that
not this month,
guacamole.
but yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm really just trying to fast more, even within this whole spectrum, because I
That's
am
good.
pretty
Yeah.
much eating 2 meals a day. Like tonight after dinner, which will be an early one, I won't eat again until tomorrow night's dinner.
Oh, so you're doing a 24.
I'm doing a 24 every week.
Yeah, I just got off my 24 this morning. So I did one from yesterday morning to this morning. So
And Sarah, listen, I
it's
just
great. I
feel
love it.
in one week, um, I feel lighter. Okay. And I have lost like 3, 4 pounds. That's not even the objective here.
Right.
It's a great little buy, hi, how you doing? Oh, you're nice. But it's not the main drive or
Right.
premise of it. But
I don't know
it's
that I'm losing, but
it's
I'm
that I
feeling
feel
good.
lighter.
So
It's like
yeah.
is it an illusion? I don't feel like this, like something is extra is being carried around in my midsection right now.
Right, right. Well, you just feel, I think your body is just cleaner. It's okay. So your body is more efficient at doing
Right.
all of the jobs it needs to do. And you do feel that outwardly, even if you can't put your finger on it. There's just, you're running at a more optimal level. It's like your computer. When it's running at an optimal, level, you notice it when you're on it. It's like, oh wow,
Mhm.
this is really fast, or this is, I don't know, this is a great experience on my and when it's not running, and when your computer's slowed down, it's dragging or whatever, you're just kind of like, I hate
Mhm.
this thing. So
The
it's,
slug. Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's at optimum. You're at optimum efficiency, and that's a great feeling. And it just helps you to whatever you're doing in your life, in your day to day. It just helps, get you through that, including this podcast. So,
100%. And enough about that. But I did want to check in on that front because it's a two broads way of encouraging people that you can do it,
yeah.
and the check-ins are about the praise report. All right. Because
Yeah.
you absolutely, like, in 1 week, I already feel better. And I remember when I did this 21-day thing a year or so ago. Um, wow. Okay. By week 2, it was just like I'm a machine. All right. You can take your
Yeah, it's great.
machines. Yeah, it's fantastic. But yeah, sleeping better even for me is this. Probably a
Yeah,
lot of
I'm
our
sleeping
listeners
good.
know this. I'm
I think it's great, and I think if it's still January, so to anyone listening, it's not too late to start.
It's never too late.
Jumpstart your it's never too late. Jumpstart your year. Get on board. Set small goals that are achievable and attainable, so you won't get discouraged, and then continue to build your goals from there. Challenge yourself. But yeah, it's just get on the wagon and let's go.
That's it. We're just trying to give some, too broad love out there. We want people to feel better, and taking control of the diet in this way is like unbelievably accessible, doable, and you will
Yes.
feel the benefits. So,
And go
um,
walking. Everyone, get
100%.
outside and go walking.
Oh,
All
just get
right.
outside, but don't we divert.
Yes, yes. We're
Sarah,
going to walk this around to the topic of today's
we
show.
are.
But on
Good one.
ching. Yeah.
Sarah, walking it around to a thing you sent me on Instagram. I think it was. You sent me a text. So I forget what it was.
Yeah.
About a person who had a 3.4 GPA coming out of school. All right. And then it was determined that this person could not read. Um,
Yeah. Graduated from high school with a 3.4, but could not read.
Correct. And if everybody's getting the same reaction we had to that, it was just like, how does that even happen? Okay, we'll shelf that. But they took the school district to court.
Yeah. Sued him over it.
They sued him over it. They won. Sarah and I were a little concerned, because it was just a short thing. And so we both learned pretty quick on that this was a story from like a year ago, February or something.
Well, it caught my attention because it was Tennessee, and
Correct.
where I live, and then more digging, and discovered that it was in Clarksville, which
Yes.
is just 50 minutes up the road from me. It's like the next county over.
Right.
So I was like, "Whoa, okay, that's like
Yeah.
it feels like it's in your backyard."
For sure. And it is.
Yeah.
And so Sarah, we were both just like, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. My immediate reaction was, good. I hope people sue school districts everywhere. Okay. Just because if there's one thing they like to talk about and like to keep hold of and like to ask more of, it's called money.
Yeah.
So, if there's somebody's out there setting the precedents that these cases can win in court, I was sort of like, yeah, you go. Okay. After a short little thing of that, I was like, hang on a second though. First of all, back up. Beep, beep. What? How could you have not known? Like, are we waiting until after someone is out of school to present this problem? Because it could have been a problem that you couldn't read in, say 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th grade. What are we doing right now with that? And then I got kind of salty about it, Sarah. Then I was just like, hang on. How, as a parent, how can you how can you not know your kid can't read? And
Right.
that baffled me. However, I don't live in everyone else's lives, and there could be realistic scenarios here. And then, so I was a little salty about that. About, you can't tell me you're trying to get money from a situation that kind of almost puts you in a bad light. That crossed my mind, and I think yours is as well.
Yeah, I didn't know what they were suing for
Right.
specifically. Yeah.
So of course we, dug in, and they did win the lawsuit, but the judgment was about getting all this extra help, and it turns out this student was has a dyslexic
Yeah.
issue, and again, though, okay, we're not going to get into that too much. So,
Well, but I think it's there's four, just coming to the top of my mind, there's four things here that, like you said, all along this time in school, you have the parents, you have friends, you have teachers and school employees and the student themselves. Somebody has to know this child can't read. That you are just now like, oh, we've graduated and oh, I can't read. We got to do something about this. I mean, how many people come in contact with this child? Do they go to a church? Like, I mean, are they in a community program? Are they in sports? I mean, I guess you don't really read a lot in sports, but I think things come out. Like literacy is something that comes out in every facet of your life. Right.
correct.
So I think I think it's a valid point to say there people should have known that this young man could not read at some juncture in his school career. Someone somewhere had to have known or recognized, and if they didn't, that's a big problem. And if they did and it wasn't ever, remedied or dealt with, that's another problem.
Correct. And so at the very least, it's a completely legit, logical first place question, I think, is how does this not get noticed? And then came across another one, another lawsuit from a gal who, again, I don't even think the dyslexic part needs to be part of the story, in all honesty, because I thought that's what there was special funding for special teachings for people that have some sort of a learning disablement.
There is a lot of teachers are specialized in it too.
Correct. So that doesn't even make it seem like, oh, this person was untouchable and not even able to. No, and that's
also a lot of people with dyslexia read quite well, so you can't just use that as a crutch. There's
correct.
there's different levels and there's different, it's an individual thing, but
Right.
let's just note that there are a lot of individuals with dyslexia who do read and read well.
Correct. They just don't like it, and it hurt. My brother's dyslexic.
Yeah, it's difficult, right?
It's very difficult, and he says it actually kind of hurts his brain. So, but he can read. In other words, you're not beyond the capability of learning how to read. I think that's
right.
The drill down here, right?
And this other girl was in Connecticut. This other young woman was in Connecticut. So we have in multiple states now with lawsuits because students have graduated and couldn't read, and she's in college now.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, whole nother conversation there. But we won't get into it because what we're bringing today was just the surrounding the absolute reality of illiteracy, and it's a problem. It is most definitely a problem in our society, and
it's a big problem.
And it's a bigger problem than I feel like is getting any light on it now. Having been an education researcher myself many years ago, for many years, I understand why the lights don't, the spotlights are not brought out. All right. But having said that, I'm still trying to figure out why it's still not being talked about more by the people experiencing this within a family, say, for example. Or I know there are more and more teachers that are coming out with their difficulties with, like, say, higher education. Like, say you get your high school teacher and your content is not matching up to the capabilities just in the reading department. Like, you're dealing with students who cannot read or write at the level of the grade that they're in.
Right.
We are, that's one of it's a big reason why there's several great teachers leaving the profession. Mm-hmm. It's unbearable for them to get focused on what their bailiwick is with who they're supposed to be teaching to, and the content and the level at which is supposed to be presented, when you've got people over here not just struggling a little bit, not just a slower reader, not just we're talking about third grade level readings
Yeah.
that high school teachers are getting. I mean, it's a huge problem. And we just, when you sent me that video and I saw that, and it reignited that old researcher in me that was like, yeah, I know this is a problem. This has been a problem for decades now. And it's just, I, don't think about it daily. But when you sent me that, I texted you back, right? I was like, I think we should do this for Sunday's cast. It just immediately just rang a bell that it's just like, this is worthy of our time of coming together today and talking about this.
Yeah.
And so I feel, we both feel, and I literally got myself in a twist up about this since we decided to do this cast, and we both kind of dug into doing some research. And so I think that's the problem. It's a huge problem. How big of a problem is it? Well, Sarah, I'm glad you asked. But I think before we go into how big a problem that it is, maybe I would like to go backwards and bring people up to where we are so that they have a really kind of a astounding overview of how big of a problem this is.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're talking about in context of we are in the 21st century. We are in the 21st century of every possible, thing that could be white papered, researched, dissertation, money thrown at, every possible thing anybody could ridiculously even come up with for how to reinvent the learning machine. We have an embarrassment problem, and it's like an unbelievable matchup. So, having said that, I'm going to take off my glasses, which make me not read very well. And and what a treat this is. How you doing?
How
And
you
Sarah,
doing?
how you doing? I'm going to be bringing up some. I had to go into my old library, and I was like, okay, I spent time on the internet and stuff, and I said, you know what? Let's go to your shelves yourself here, girl. Like you don't own any books on education, and let's pull out the handy dandy.
I love it. Love it.
Okay, can you notice the condition of this?
Just for those who are listening,
Actual
it's The
book.
Underground History of American Education by John Taylor Gatto.
Correct. And the tagline is an intimate investigation into the prison of modern schooling. He don't mess. He put it right on the cover.
We just triggered a whole bunch of people with that statement, but I love it because it's the
okay.
truth.
Hang
It's
on.
the truth, honesty.
Well, just hold on to yourselves, kids.
Grab your pants, grab your
grab
belt
your
buckles,
pants, grab your pants, because we got stats to prove you need to read this book. Okay, if you can find it, by the way. And underneath his name here, it says former New York State and New York City Teacher of the Year. So let's go ahead and loosen the belt notch just a little bit. If you feel like anything remotely, possibly entering your mind that we're blaming this on teachers or that this is something, stop it. Okay.
Yep. Grab your emotional support, whatever, and let's go. Let's dig into it. So.
That's it. That's it. All right. So I said, what is the man who I considered the man? All right. The man who not only had an incredible, just an incredible, a legacy teaching tenure, right? But his love and his some of the things he did for some of his students, unbelievable. And the research level of this guy, off the chain. Not only that, though, and I think the real unbelievable part about his writing for me was the fact that he is a beautiful writer. And he can make this stuff just get into your soul, you know. And there's a lot of stuff in how he writes this. It's extremely poetic. And a lot of it comes through an anger and a bitterness and then there's a lot of hopeful. And then there's a lot of, you know, it depends on who he's talking about. So I was like, what's the man? Where did he write about literacy, illiteracy? Which side of the coin you want to look at? All right. So I'm going to turn to a few pages that I found. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't normally do a lot of kind of long-term read on the cast, but I just want you to know that we're not grabbing stuff out of thin air, number one, but also it's extremely important people understand where we are and where we were. Yeah. Because, as you will see, education has done nothing near getting better.
Now, progress is regress, but anyway.
100%. And we're going to go back in time a little bit here. All right. I'll be skipping around a tad, but bear with me. Let's start here. In 1882, fifth graders read these authors in their Appleton School Reader: William Shakespeare, Henry Thoreau, George Washington, Sir Walter Scott, Mark Twain, Benjamin Franklin, Oliver Wendell Holmes, John Bunyan, Daniel Webster, Samuel Johnson, Lewis Carroll, Thomas Jefferson, Ralph Waldo Emerson, and others like them. Okay, 1882, fifth grade. In 1995, a student teacher of fifth graders in Minneapolis wrote to the local newspaper, "I was told children are not to be expected to spell the following words correctly: back, big, call, came, day, did, dog, down, get, good." The list goes on and on. Within those same type of levels of words. Okay, then we got into a thing here with all right. And now this, like I said, we're skipping around a little bit. He gets into some timelines here. This goes backwards. By 1812, Pierre Dupont was claiming that barely 4 in 1,000 Americans were unable to read well, and that the young had skill in argumentation thanks to daily debates at the common breakfast table. By 1820, there was even more evidence of Americans' avid reading habits when 5 million copies of James Fenimore Cooper's complex and elusive novels were sold, along with an equal number of Noah Webster's didactic speller, to a population of dirt farmers and under 20 million in size.
Love Cooper, by the way.
In 1835, Richard Cobden announced there was 6 times as much newspaper reading in the United States as in England, and the census figures of 1840 gave fairly exact evidence that a sensational reading revolution had taken place without any exhortation on the part of the public moralists and social workers, but because common people had the initiative and freedom to learn. In North Carolina, the worst situation of any state surveyed, 8 out of 9 could still read and write. All right, still in the 1800s. In 1853, I'm going to mess up this name because it is a Swedish name. Per is the first name, or we just, in Sweden, don't know how to pronounce that. Per Siljeström, a Swedish visitor, wrote, quote, "In no country in the world is the taste for reading so diffuse as among the common people in America. The American Almanac observed grandly. Periodical publications, especially newspapers, disseminate knowledge throughout all of classes of society and exert an amazing influence in forming and giving effect to public opinion. If noted the existence over 1,000 newspapers. There was 1,000 newspapers in 1853, Sarah.
Wow.
Ordinary people who could read, though not privileged by wealth, power, or position, could see through the fraud of social class or even the grander fraud of its official expertise. And then he writes, that was the trouble.
Yep.
In his book, The New Illiterates, author Sam Blumenfeld gives us the best introduction to what went wrong with reading in the United States. He also gives us insight into why learning to read needn't be frustrating or futile. A typical letter from one of his readers boasts of her success in imparting the alphabet code to 4 children under the age of 5 by the simple method of practice with letter sounds. One day, she found her 3-year-old working his way through a lesson alone at the table, reading Sam, and so forth. Her verdict on the process, I just taught him his letter sounds. He picked up the rest and did it himself. That's how easy it is. Okay, so now that just sort of sets the table as to the level of importance and it was a fervor of inspiration by this country that they were hungry for knowledge and wanted to be part of the society and did not want to be duped. We'll come back to that
Well,
later.
it was valued. It was valued as and treasured, right? Like gold, right? That people understood the value of reading, of books, of exchanging ideas through the written word.
100%. Literacy is very attached to your well-being, your safety, and your freedoms. Okay. Also, let's make note here that in these 1821, 1848, there was no compulsory school law.
Right.
Most people weren't in school. And if they did go to school, it was for a few years. And then they had to jump back into help the family situation or the farm or whatever it might be. All right.
Yeah.
And they could read better than anyone today. Okay.
And they could think better. They could organize their thoughts better. That's more on this later in the show, everyone.
Correct. Now, Sarah. Well, and most people know exactly where it's going, but here's the thing. Maybe some people don't, because the machine has convinced us that they just know best. And if anything's been taken out, it's because it's been replaced with something much better. Mm-hmm. And we have generations now who don't know this. They don't know the history. And this is why there's so many topics that come up. And I go, if everyone understood the real history to education, it would change almost everything. And I have a hard time coming off that. Now, here's a little sub-chapter he called intellectual espionage. Okay. And here's where we're going to get into some numbers, which are interesting because I love where he pulled these numbers from. So come at me. At the start of World War II, now we got some attention. All right. We got wars. Millions of men showed up at registration offices to take low-level academic tests before being inducted. The years of maximum mobilization were 1942 to 1944. The fighting force had mostly schooled in the 1930s. Both those inducted and those turned away. Of the 18 million men, tested, 17,280,000 of them were judged to have the minimum competence in reading required to be a soldier, which was a 96% literacy rate. Although this was a 2% fall off from the 98% rate among voluntary military applicants 10 years earlier. The dip was so small, though, it didn't worry anyone. World War II was over in 1945. 6 years later, war began in Korea. Several million men were tested for military services, but this time, 600,000 were rejected. Literacy in the draft pool had dropped to 81%, even though all that was needed to classify a soldier as literate was fourth grade reading proficiency.
Wow.
6 years. In the few short years from the beginning of World War II to Korea, a terrifying problem of adult illiteracy had appeared. The Korean War Group received most of its schooling in the 1940s, and it had more years in school with more professionally trained personnel and more scientifically selected textbooks than the WW2 men, yet it could not read, write, count, speak, or think as well as the earlier, less schooled contingent. A third American war began in the mid-1960s. By its end in 1973, the men found non-inductible by reason of inability to read safety instructions, interpret road signs, decipher orders, and so on. In other words, the number found illiterate had reached 27% of the total pool. Vietnam-era men had been schooled in the 1950s and the 60s, much better schooled than either of the two earlier groups, but the 4% illiteracy of 1941, which had transmuted into the 19% illiteracy of 1952, had now grown into the 27% illiteracy of 1970. Not only had the fraction of competent readers dropped to 73%, but a substantial chunk of even those only barely adequate. They could not keep abreast of developments by reading a newspaper. They could not keep abreast of developments by reading a newspaper. They could not read for pleasure. They could not sustain a thought or an argument. They could not write well enough to manage their own affairs without assistance. Consider how much more compelling this steady progression of intellectual blindness is when we track it through Army admission tests rather than college admission scores and standardized reading tests, which inflate apparent proficiency by frequently changing the way tests are scored. Looking back, abundant data exists from states like Connecticut and Massachusetts that to show that by 1840, the incidence of complex literacy in the United States was between 93 and 100% wherever such a thing mattered. According to the Connecticut census of 1840, only one citizen out of every 579 was illiterate, and you probably don't want to know, not really, what people in those days considered literate. It's too embarrassing. Popular novels of the period give a clue. Last of the Mohicans, published in 1826, sold so well that a contemporary equivalent would have to move 10 million copies to match it. Okay, let's just, I feel like I need to, walk a plank of shame on some sort of collective embarrassment plank over here. How can you get past this? Now, I remember when I was speaking to groups about education, I was bringing out numbers such as this with the declining situation that was charted since the inception of the Department of Ed, which, true. Okay.
Yeah.
But that came in 69? So I remember because I was in there when the light got turned out.
It was Carter.
It was 69.
So, well, I know Carter is sort of given the role of the father of the Department of Education. He was
Carter
a little bit later.
Came later.
Yeah, he was later. He was late 70s.
Now, I think
But
maybe what I'm talking about is when the feds took over education. All right.
yeah,
It was called the Department of something and something. It was a
it all
merger.
comes down to the same thing. It's all got the same
And then
arms and legs.
in the 70s, it splintered. And then it was the Department of Ed was separate from whatever it started in 69. But
I think Lynn talked about that too a little bit on the show. The first when we had Lynn Taylor on, um,
right.
one of the first episodes that we had her on.
Yeah, absolutely. Lynn
Yeah.
knows about this stuff. And the so that chart showed and that the chart I used to haul around on this big old foam board was the show of from timed from that, and then the amount of money that was put into education, which work with me here now, we're going to climb a little bit of a mountain. All right. And it also showed the line of administrative. So as the administrations in education grew,
Hmm.
we were making mountains. But the literacy rate and the score testing and the thing was going, okay. So you had the money, you had more, people who aren't in the classroom, okay, administrators, and you had all these things that, oh, it needs more money. No, it doesn't. This just proved that. It proved it so far back, decades and decades ago, that throwing money at this has never been we know the answer. Anyway, don't get me started on that. We're not going there today,
Well,
Sarah.
what they're saying is it needs more oversight and bureaucracy. That's what they're saying. It needs more control by somebody else instead
Some,
of just like
some,
you. Yeah, like you read, education comes naturally, which you read at
okay,
the very beginning. Educating oneself and educating your family members. This is a natural process of life. But when you put it in the hands of bureaucrats, of government, of oligarchs, of whatever, we can have a whole list of names we can call this. Then you have somebody who is now in control of the thoughts, and the language of the people.
100%. And to speak to our outrage, and one of the reasons that we're going to get to later, but the audacity of it just continually being covered up is nothing short of intentional. So there it is. He also talked about, and I'm not going to read all of that, but the drop in SAT and achievement test scores, ridiculous. Okay, from the 70s, it was the first time it was just like, what is happening right now?
Mm.
And it's talking about what should be made of a 50% decline among the most rarefied groups of test takers. Those who score above 750. In 1972, there were 2,817 American students who reached this pinnacle. Only 1,438 did it in 1994, when kids took a much easier test. Can a 50% decline occur in 22 years without signaling that some massive leveling in the public school mind is underway? Between 1960 and 1998, the non-teaching bureaucracy of public schools grew 500%. So I was just speaking to that. But oversight was concentrated into fewer and fewer hands. The 4,520 school districts with elected boards in this nation, which was the number in 1960, shriveled to 15,000 by 1998. So do we understand what that means? That means local school boards that the taxpayers can directly go to as their advocates for problems within the school system. They have removed, and now, you know what? A school board is nothing more than a launch pad for I want to run for office in a bigger way one day.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is. It's a occupied seat of nothingness. And it's worse than that. It stifles parents' voices. Listen, you don't want to know. there's absolutely, it runs completely contrarian to what the first level, does anybody understand this? The first level of our government that you have can reach out and touch in the first level of situation that people put so much stock in as Americans. We have already read about the importance that Americans felt it was huge to people. If we're sending our kids to school, they're going to get something out of this. They are going to, right? And so, yes, we're going to elect you to keep your eye on it. All right. You're going to keep your eye on the state. You're going to keep your eye on the feds. You're going to keep your eyes on the classroom. And you're going to be the people that we're going to elect, that we're going to trust to do this. It's the first form of local government. And it's treated now like it's some kind of a non-existent, absolutely ridiculous, who even needs this thing now? And it mattered greatly. And as we will walk through where we find ourselves now, maybe you can, in your own mind, see where there's been just things gone off the rail in so many ways. And yes, our school machinery has everything to do with how the breakdown of our political structure. Mm-hmm. So there's that.
And society. And
well, 100%, because
I hate to say that, but it's like, this is why we're doing the show, because this topic is so important, and we need to be talking about this. We need to listen to this. We need to wake up to this, and we need to address this and acknowledge that it's a problem, because this is a serious, serious issue for all humanity. I mean,
exactly, it is. And and this, and I'm sorry, but this book's a little bit dated, and it's horrifying. All right.
Imagine if we had a 2025 edition.
Yeah, and
I wouldn't sleep at night.
No, my man John has been passed for several years now.
Yes.
Sad day for me. But I'm going to hunt him down. I'm talking to this guy. All right. So, but here's another thing. According to the Journal of American Medical Association, dated in December 1995, 33% of all patients cannot read and understand instructions on how often to take medications, notices about appointments, consent forms, labels on prescription bottles, insurance forms, and other simple parts of self-care. They are rendered helpless by an inability to read. Okay, that's enough. I can't take it. And that was in 1995. So
right, that's in 1995, prior to all of the modern technology and the screens and all of that we have now. If you want to talk about an acceleration of literacy issues, wow, where we are right now today makes 1995 look like scholars were just walking down every street that you came to, you know?
Yeah, but people in 1812 would think they've just landed on a planet that they have no idea what's happening.
Yeah.
They've literally landed into the film of Idiocracy.
Yeah, it's
okay.
It's
so Sarah, I'm gonna
have,
if you don't mind, and I hope I didn't mess up too many words when I was reading.
No, you did great. You're past your literacy exam.
I was kind of having a hard time reading it at an angle like this and trying to keep the lines from going knuckleheady on me. Knuckleheady? Sarah, we're just going to have to write a Two Broads lingo dictionary one day.
We are. I'm just impressed that you were able to read that without reading glasses. So I was over here like, wow.
Yeah, no, listen, I got massively great up close vision, and which is why I've just opted to not do the.
There you go.
What do they call them? The focalies, the bifocal things.
Bifocals, yeah.
Because you know what? I don't know. But I'm blind as a bat past my book.
Right. So you had your regular glasses. Yeah. If I took my contacts out, I could see if I held it up close to my face too. Yeah. But I'm over here. I got the reading glasses, you know, anyway.
But I don't know. My puffy eyes might make the glasses more of an attractive thing at this point.
I think you look great no matter what you do.
What do you think for the YouTube look? What do we got?
I think you look fantastic. I think you're gorgeous, darling.
I love you, sweetie, darling.
Gorgeous.
I digress again, because that's who we are. Well, that was a needed segue, and me
it
personally,
was.
I could just feel my heart rate go up. Like every time I read it last night, then I read it again. I was doing the highlighting, and I'm just like, I'm getting mad.
Well, it is definitely it lends to, some grief at the
Hmm.
loss that we have sustained. We have sustained a great loss. And I'm just going to say as a nation, because we'll get into kind of some of the world statistics and where we fall and all of that. But like, we're not even talking about other countries. We are talking about the United States of America right now. We're talking about one nation. Okay. So this nation that we live in and where we've come from and the great minds, and they weren't great minds because they were just these super gifted people and they were just superhuman, or we have great minds who came, and these were poor people. We're not talking about the elite or the wealthy, who
No,
came over to this land. Okay. And you have lots of different minds from all different places in the world. Okay. People who have lent to this, but talking about historically, who understood the value of reading and learning. And even, slaves, once they were freed or when they were allowed to, like, they knew the value of getting an education. They understood the value of reading and writing. Human beings understand the value of reading and writing. Why do you think that slaves throughout history, not just in the United States, why do you think that slaves and the lower class throughout history, like think of the Middle Ages, was kept illiterate on purpose? Why in the Middle Ages people would go to church and they couldn't understand what was being said, in the church service, because it was all done in Latin and only the upper echelon could understand Latin. You know, you keep people under control. You keep people, um, you know, kind of just, I don't want to say squash down, but for the lack of a better term
peasants,
right now, yeah,
peasants.
you keep them and where you want them, okay, manageable, when you control their education, what they can and cannot learn, and being able to think for themselves. So it's literacy is not just about reading, the ability to read words on a page. That's part of it. Reading comprehension is a huge part of that. So, okay, you can sound out words and read them on a page. Do you understand what those words are saying? Do you understand the ideas that are being put together sentence after sentence? And then further from there, literacy goes into, are you also then able to formulate your own thoughts? You take what you just read, now you can analyze that in your head and come up with your own thoughts, and kind of take it even further and then go discuss it with other people. This is what literacy is. And this is what we have lost to a great degree, that, like you just read, historically was so profound, not because these people were just insanely gifted, but because they valued it and understood that knowledge was a key to so many things. They understood the power in books, in the written word, and in discussions, right? You mentioned debating at the breakfast table. We talk about this on the show. How many times have we talked about having these conversations at the dinner table, at the breakfast table, at wherever, being able to exchange ideas, but being able to take in all of this information and analyze it? We've lost all of that, not completely, but I mean, in a large group of people, it's gone.
It's
And
gone.
this is scary. This should be like, this is worse than a Stephen King novel. Like, if you talk about being scared and staying up at night, this should keep people awake. This should make people go, what can I do? Where do we start? What can my role be in trying to remedy some of this? Because it's
Right.
not like it's unfixable.
No, we're gonna
It,
and we need to get into that. But I was sorry. I was you mentioned you mentioned slavery. You
mm,
mentioned okay. I was gonna because I have a whole highlighted section in here about the diverse, like the illiteracy rates in the Black community, white community, the historical number. We've been lied to. We've been lied to. Okay. In this same time period of how far back I went, the reading, it's unbelievable. And if I could find it, I wish I could, but that would probably throw us into a whole nother tailspin of a topic.
will be part
I
two.
think, well, the fact of the matter is the Black community reads worse than they did in the 1800s, even with slavery. But let me
Right,
just say
right.
this also. There is a reason that that weighed heavy on my heart at the time that I was using this as literally as a textbook for myself when I was very involved. And of course, at the time, that whole topic about the inner city thing and the pipeline from school to prison thing, that don't get that gets me really going. All right. But what I consciously decided last night, I'm like, you know what, though? We don't even need to bring that up because here's where we are. And here's what I believe anyway. We're all bleeding red.
Right.
And
Right.
we're all having literacy problems.
Right.
Okay. And the white illiteracy problem is actually kind of worse. So it's like that doesn't matter. We're throwing that out. How
Right.
about where people here
Yep.
getting duped?
Yep.
And being robbed of taxpayer money, and we're putting our children in front of things that will not help them in the world at all. As a matter of fact, it's neutering them. All right, it's making them not able to stand on any kind of solid ground. It's making them run towards the easiest thing. It's making them buckle under pressure. It's giving them no gravitas for having conversation. And it's no joke. You're having arguments at a dining room table, or family fights are even worthy. But if you have these kinds of discussions as kind of a quasi semi regular basis with your family, you know what else it does? It checks in with you to know where this is how you know who your kids really are. This is how you know where they're probably you see some signs of, boy, that could not bode well for them if they're kind of hanging on to that. That's something they need to kind of shore up. You know what I mean? They're going to get walked all over, or they're going to be considered a bully. This is where you kind of gut check, your kids. And how, and you're, as a parents, are the first line of supposed to provoke that in your kids. Yeah. Okay. I'm getting off the rail.
All right.
Sarah.
All right.
I
got
want
some
you
stats for you
before it gets moldy in people's minds about all the greatness of the 17th century.
Yeah. So let's take us into 2025. This is literary. Now, I'm not going to be orally literate right now.
No, you're just being one of the broads, babe.
Oh, man. All right.
I'm rubbing off on you.
Literacy stats and facts in the U.S. 2025. Okay. Overall, U.S. adult literacy. All right. So we're speaking of adults and just the United States. Overall, we have a 79% literacy rate, means 79% have medium to high English literacy skills. Okay. Now, let's think about how many people live in the United States. All right. So roughly 400 million. I think we've kind of surpassed that a little bit now, but roughly 400 million people
in the
United States. Okay. So if you think of 20% of 400 million is 80 million. So 20% would be the ones who do not have the medium to high English literacy skills. I'll continue with these stats in a minute, but just to think, because 79 feels high. Oh, 79%. Oh, we have a 79% literacy rate. Oh, we're doing pretty good. Okay. Actually, we're number 36 in the world for literacy. So hold that little factoid in your mind for just a moment while I go over these. The United States of America is number 36 in the world for literacy. But 79% seems high. But when you look at 21%, basically, or 20% of 400 million, that's 80 million people who do not have a medium to high. Okay. So let's hold that in our brains for a minute. Adults with low literacy skills. So as I just said, 21% struggle with basic reading tasks. We're not even talking about overall literacy. 21% of adults struggle with basic reading tasks. Total adults with low literacy, 43 million U.S. adults possess low literacy skills. So in the grander scheme of how many people live, I mean, it's a smaller number, 400 million, 43 million, but 43 million people is a lot of people. That's a lot of people. That is a lot of people that do not have the same prospects in life because they're unable to do these simple tasks. They're unable to take in this information and analyze this information and then go and, take this information out to others. So 43 million people possess low literacy skills. Um, Fourth grade reading proficiency. 34% of students lack basic reading level. 34% of students. Um, $2.2 trillion annual cost to the U.S. economy. That's the economic impact of low literacy. 34% of low literacy adults born outside of the US. So that's foreign born. Okay. But that's 34% of the low literacy. So that's not the entirety of the low literacy adults. So that's just 34%. They do come from outside, but we have it's like half of them are natural born citizens. I was reading earlier, and half of them are not. So it's really not a matter of, oh, well, these are all of the migrants coming in. Because, somebody's going to say that. Somebody's going to throw that out there. It's like, no, we have our own problem here
Hello.
that has nothing to do with who's currently coming into the country. So let's just take that out of the equation right now. U.S. international ranking. Okay, so this one says 14th place among 31 participating countries. I read earlier that 36 worldwide. That was in this particular poll that was taken. So 31 participating countries were 14th and 31. That's still very low. I got 36 out of worldwide. You actually got a lower number than 36 in what you were researching. So regardless of which one of these we're looking at, that's a very low. We're not ranking anywhere near the highest. And supposedly, we're the most powerful nation in the world, and we have all this money, and we throw all this money in education, and we've got this and that, and oh, it's the American ideal, right? But yet we don't rank in the top 10 of literacy for the world countries in literacy.
We're not in the top 20.
We're we're not.
We're
Yeah.
it,
Well, and again,
okay.
this one was only out of 31 participating countries in this particular poll that I'm reading from.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, this was I've got multiple studies here, but this one had a chart that was much easier to read on the show, and so I just went with this one. But either way, that's low, right? That's low. So, well, if you think like you're right there in the middle, you're not at the worst at 30, but you're basically at 15. You're almost at 15, right there in the middle of 30. So anyway, it's not good. No, it doesn't matter how we look at it. Forget the numbers. It's not good, folks. All right. So literacy score decline there's a 12-point drop from 2017 to 2023. So from 271 to 258. So that's just 6 years. We've got a 12-point drop. And there's a bunch of other statistics on here. We could go on all day. This particular chart actually goes year by year, and it'll show the overall literacy rate and its decline. And we went from 2017 at 82% to 2025 at 79%. Okay. So it's a steady decline. If we compare what you just read and we look at these current stats, it's a continuous decline, and it's only going to get worse because now what we're seeing, not only with the screens, but specifically studies that are now being done with Chat GPT users and all of this AI that's coming in, it's going to get worse. I think we're going to see a faster rate of decline of these numbers, Lori, if we don't do something to turn this around.
I agree with that, and no pun intended. But these screens now that are, students are just using it younger and younger, in classrooms even, is just going to be another smoke screen for hiding the problem. Because
that's how that one girl was able to do it, because everything that she was doing, she was having her phone. She would take a picture of a text, have it read that to her out loud so she could understand it, and then she would speak in to write her papers. She would speak and do the voice to text.
Right, and so people won't notice as quickly because everything's typed, nothing's handwritten. So you're just cut and pasting, basically, and it's unbelievable to think how much worse it could get, because $2.2 trillion
Yeah.
in actual dollars. And that number seemed so unbelievable to me. But did you get into this too with your numbers about how it broke down, where some of that money comes from?
I didn't, but I would like to just take a second to remind people that, because a good friend of mine who used to own a bookstore, we were talking about this one day, and we were talking about poverty, and we were talking about, things that people can do. And she put it so eloquently, and I will never get it quite as eloquent as she did, but she was talking about how you educate this out of society, like the way to combat these problems that we have is through education, is through literacy. And anyone who can see the decline in literacy can see how it is lending to, the peasant class. And I'm not talking about poverty and peasant class. I'm speaking from a feudalistic system perspective for
Yeah,
people
same.
that, I want to make sure I clarify that. But going into poverty, going into crime rates, going into homes, that are rife with abuse. It's not, and that doesn't mean that's in every situation. It has to do with low literacy. But we see when people will analyze these things and do statistical analysis on it, when areas of the population that have low literacy skills, there's a whole list of things that are very common in that group of people. And this is when you can control and manipulate the literacy of a population, you can control and manipulate the population. It's like control the education and you can control the population.
Well,
Control the literacy and you can control the. You
this
just
is it.
need, yeah, you just need to take away the ability to think for yourself, to read, write, and think, and exchange ideas.
And they're doing it.
Exactly.
And the thing of it is these numbers are hard numbers based on something vital like reading. All right. The thing of it is there'd be people like, yeah, well, they're this or that. It's like, and maybe it's generational because of this. You have
Yes.
between 16 to 21-year-olds, Sarah, 50% are unemployed in that age category. And almost all of them have the struggle in this realm. Okay. So 50% unemployed are not functionally literate. Between 16 and 21 years old, 50% of the unemployed in that age group are functionally illiterate. Okay, now 3 out of 5 can't read. All right, the
Awful.
the impact at that crucial beginning of I'm not going to college, and I'm going to back up for 1 second and say something that really chafes my rear end. We want to walk around all braggy about, oh, are they going to college? Are they, we push education as this pinnacle thing of grand, come look at this, come look what my kid's doing, go look where his kid went, look what we're doing, look what we're fighting for to get into that school, into this school, into that school. This is a scam. You cannot put this kind of societal elitist slant on an area of life that's completely dysfunctional.
Yeah.
It's like idolization on an idea. We idolize the idea of the paper of it.
Mm-hmm.
And like our money, it's about worthless.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not backed up by any kind of gold standard. All right. If you're sending people to college that cannot read,
Yes.
I can't say any more than that. That should be some weird anomaly, but it's not an anomaly. I spent hours listening to these people during the week, these teachers and, even community college level teachers. And they're just like, Yeah, it's kind of a thing,
Yeah.
where even when they can read and write, they can't put it together in a way that is conceptual or is kind of sticking with the point. It's sort of like they're rote reading. It's like, oh, I know that word, I know that word, I know that word, but at the end of the sentence, you don't know what you just read,
Yeah.
kind of
Well,
problem.
oh yeah, they can't write papers. They can't do some of these basic things. And the whole idea of college, and you've got your big certificate, on the wall and all of this, Lori, and it's like, if these students are going to college and, like you said, and they can't read, it's the girl in Connecticut specifically, and this is nothing against her, but she was very open about her situation, and she said while she's in college, they're making accommodations for her. So if we have students graduating college that still can't read, I mean, I don't know if she's going to learn how to read while she's in college or not, but what does that degree actually mean? What I mean, if we're passing people through the university system, and you can put your big, you got your degree up on the wall and it's in the frame, but you can't read. I just, what does that even mean? What
It means
value
I'll
is
take
that?
your money. It means
Yes.
I'll take your money, and listen, Sarah, that makes no sense. Why
No
why you
sense.
would why you would put somebody under that kind of a pressure cooker at college that can't read? Honestly, I think it's abusive. I'm going to go straight off the barrel here and just say this is not right. This is not good for her.
No. Well,
And by the way, I mean, what university is this, where the universities have gotten that? Oh yeah, well, because they can't say no to anyone. And this is the whole thing about how people get passed through grade levels too. I mean, I don't know if you got it, but when I was a kid, my mom would threaten holding me back if I didn't get right with the schoolwork. All right. And you know what? She kind of had the power to do that. And my mom could have gone and talked to the principal and the teachers and gone, I'm sorry, I'm unsatisfactory. I don't feel like she's where she needs to be, blah, 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 hold her back. That would have been listened to. That would have shook the school. All right.
yeah.
And it sure shook me. All right. Listen, I think you got a better chance at a stay of execution than you do holding a child back now. It's like it's somebody, but here's the
Yeah.
thing. It doesn't matter, Sarah, because you don't want to hold them back and put them through the torture yet another extra
Hmm.
year. They got 13 years, 13 years into the system of a machine, and they're coming out, can't read. What is my salty brain going to do when it splatters right now? I am so livid about, you know what? Because here's what it was, Sarah. And by the way, the $2.2 trillion, unemployment benefits, welfare recipients, 3 out of 4 are illiterate. Um, the penal system.
I
All
was just going
right.
to say incarceration numbers have to
Incarceration,
account for that. Yeah.
incarceration. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
But I literally feel like I sat with Jerry on a little documentary last night. He was breaking my heart, and it starts out with him trying to learn how to read in an adult learning reading environment. And he's, this person, you notice on the thing, it's got words like kite and, it's elementary, bro. This guy is probably in his 50s and can't really read a lick. All right. And he was talking about, the interviewer said, do you feel like you missed out on not being able to like help your kid? How did you navigate when your kids would come to you to help with schoolwork or whatever? And you said, well, I just always, go to mom for that. Right. And she said, do you feel like you missed something? And he said, I missed a lot. And now this guy's goal is to try and read to his little granddaughter. It was heartbreaking.
Oh,
Okay,
wow.
I'm
Yeah.
sappy, but the thing is, Jerry has a factory job. His parents worked at a GM plant. This, I think, this was in Michigan. All right. And now he works for some other kind of factory. I don't know what it was. And Jerry, at the beginning of it, it also mentioned that Jerry's had a couple DUIs. And, it got me down the rabbit hole, Sarah. And I don't think I had to go down the rabbit hole. I didn't really have to dig. My little paws didn't have to get that dirty to think to myself, we got Jerry, the factory guy over here, who's missed out on so much and knows it. Because let's just throw out the major fun fact over here. The fact that you cannot read does not mean you are stupid. And the other thing is the glaring thing about somebody like him. And then I'm looking at this 16 to 21-year-old contingent over here in the unemployed sector. All right. And I'm thinking about all the welfare recipients that just are struggling. Now, okay, we're not going to get into a righteous political debate on this, but it didn't take long for me to make the assumption that I feel like illiteracy is weighing heavy on these 43 million people, whatever number you said. That's a lot of people. Yeah. And I sat with the reality of what it would look like in a day in my life to not be able to read or write and to pretend like I didn't feel horribly stupid about myself. And the self degradation and just the shame societally that one takes on in this uplifting of the holy education realm and papers and stuff, and you're over here going, yeah, okay, yeah, big loser, put the big L, just go ahead and stamp on my forehead. So nope, I'm not going to lead with that though. So I'm going to fake a lot. I'm going to pretend a lot in my day-to-day life. I'm going to probably cover up that fact, and it would be known by very, very few. Because it's not a leading thing at a cocktail party, is it? It's not a leading thing when you're trying to get a job. It's not a leading thing in a small group, a men's group, a women's group, a social thing. When do you lead with, oh, and by the way, I can't read or write? Okay. No one needs this on the daily. Who needs that? How much drug addiction and alcoholism might be actually routed to people with literacy problems?
Yes.
And feeling like a loser because they can't fill out the form. They know they can do the job, but they can't fill out the form. Right. Now, Sarah, I feel like this captures probably more people than I even want to admit in that realm. And we have statistics on people coming out of jail, trying to reacclimate, trying to re-enter. If you are one of these people coming out now and you were illiterate when you went in, and now you're coming out illiterate and having had done time, I totally get why there's people that try to get back in. Sarah, you can't go around in life pretending things that you don't see what everybody else sees without it getting really, really under your skin and in your soul, quite frankly. This problem bothers me deeply. And what we have now is generational illiteracy.
Yeah.
And while on one hand, yeah, we can talk about the parents who might not be okay, but we can also talk about the parents who they can't read or write either. And they're over here thinking, but I dropped out of school, or I had a drug for this, that, or the other thing, and you're going to do better. If you're going to do anything, I'm going to keep you in school, blah, blah, blah. And they get out of school, they can't read either. How much? Okay, this is absolutely intentional. And if I would love to see the numbers of where these, if It's impossible, probably. But wouldn't it be interesting to know following the lives of people with this problem? I read a book a few years ago about, matter of fact, it wasn't a book on it. It was a part of a book that Malcolm Gladwell wrote. I don't remember which one it was. And he did this very interesting thing where he was talking to people with dyslexia. And, it turns out IQs in people with dyslexia are actually, on average, higher
I believe it.
because of the compensation that they've had to maneuver and strategize. And and that really spoke to me when I read that. And I thought, you know what? And I know personally people with dyslexia who I consider to be extremely solid in the mind,
Yeah.
the comprehension realm of life, and all of it. And this is why the damn shame is on us. But the people that carry this weight feel like the damn shame is on them.
Yeah.
And I am troubled by us not talking about this more. I'm sorry. 21% is way too high on a skill that you're someplace for 13 years, Sarah. To have 13 years in a skill that can be taught to a 5-year-old.
Yes.
And once you know how to read, you now know how to write. And think about this, Sarah. If you don't know how to read, you don't really know how to write, do you? So think about how you could never, well, for people like you and I, it's traumatizing to me to think about how I could never articulate my thoughts on paper. People don't understand what kind of a big deal that is. So we're just going to be in a chat GPT produced essay world now. Is that what we got? Well, say goodbye to Thoreau's, say goodbye to in 20 years. What does the writing culture even look like, Sarah? By the way, 2025 sold the least amount of books were read last year than any year in history.
Lori, I'm so glad that you brought that up, because that is a perspective that we all need to sit with for a minute. And as you're talking about what would it be like to go through your day-to-day life if you couldn't read and write. And I'm thinking about this as you're talking, and I'm, it's something we don't think about because it's just second nature. You come to something where reading is required and you just read it and you move on, right? Like, it's just not something I think about. That has got to be so internally destructive to people. I can't imagine the amount of shame, depression, anxiety, fear.
This is what I'm saying,
that
Sarah.
These people go through, and especially imagine a young person just going into the world, trying to get out on their own, especially in today's world, in today's environment. This is horrifying. This is something that we should all take into account, really think about, sit with, go do some independent research on. And there are things that we can do. We maybe towards the end of the show today, we'll kind of give a list of some things that each and every one of us can do to kind of help this. But I think the first thing is getting the word out. Like, we all need to see it and understand and acknowledge this problem. And if you know someone who struggles with literacy, oh man, be a support. Reach out to them. And I will say, kind of a reverse of that in a sense, and just talking about the school system, talking about education and the lies and where it fails and all of this. I personally know he's since passed away, but I've known for a very long time a man who didn't make it past 8th grade in school in his education. Brilliant man. And he was literate. Okay. He was highly literate. And he went on. So I don't know if he finished 8th grade or, if he left during 8th grade, but he didn't make it past 8th grade, went on to own numerous businesses. This man was a savvy entrepreneur. Okay. Brilliant man, really just and kind-hearted, so giving and just such a brilliant person in society and did so many big, awesome, incredible things um, without the big papers and certificates and, pats on the backs of a school system to say, oh, you did it. You get letters after your name, or you get, this validation that now you're credible in this particular thing. You have earned the right to speak in public because you have framed pieces of paper on your wall with fancy lettering. And I am not demeaning anyone who has, their diplomas on their wall, but I think that we, like you were hitting on earlier, Lori, we put a lot of stock in the system, in the paper that comes from the system, in the validation, okay, air quotes for those who are just listening, that comes behind that. When all of that is just, it's a big farce, and it's not what we think it is. It's not true education. It's a bunch of bureaucracy. It's a bunch of money shuffling hands back and forth. It's a bunch of manipulating the minds to keep people from excelling and being able to stand on their own, because a population that has high literacy skills is a dangerous population to those who seek to control and manipulate. And it's, if you think about the people who have fought for any kind in any country of the world, who have fought for any type of liberty or freedom, and the passion that goes behind that, and the governments that try to thwart that, or these empires throughout history that try to thwart that, trying to keep the masses under control. There are tactics and measures in place that you have to do in order to be able to rule a populace. And I think when you look at these literacy levels, we're going right back to a place in history, times in history, where people were highly oppressed, highly oppressed. This literacy levels like this only lead to oppression of a society. It doesn't lead to liberty and freedom. It doesn't lead to free thought and free market and all of the things that we hold dear, right? And we're putting so much stock in education. It's this big, illustrious word. What is being educated when we have students that are graduating from high school that cannot read, write, or really gather thoughts, put thoughts together to exchange ideas and discourse? I mean, this should be paramount to all of the issues that are out there, that are everybody's political right now. Everybody's got a platform. Everybody's triggered about something. Everybody's ranting about something. This needs to be at the top of the platform. This needs to be at the top of the list. This needs to be something that we wake up and we discuss every single day, because it is rapidly getting worse. And what are we going to do when the literacy rate's 50%, 40%? Where's it going?
Mm-hmm.
So
I heard somebody talk, and I don't know what it was on, if it was something. I think, did I send you that guy? I think he was an Asian gentleman that was one of
yes,
the videos I sent you. Was
yeah,
he
you sent it.
is he the one that said that what was it, the real the real line in the sand at some point is not going to be all these, all the division things, the blah blah blah, the rich, the poor, the this, the that, blah blah blah. It's going to literally be like those who can articulate and think. Is that what it was?
Yeah,
Versus those who can't. I mean, it touched
it
on our
was
topic.
abstract thinking versus concrete thinking and the psychology of it. I could actually play it on the show if we want
And
to.
that literacy thing ties into this somewhat too, because
Yes.
if you've got 43 million people now, we're not even counting the people in schools, correct? That was the
Yes,
adult number, wasn't it?
those numbers that I read were the adult numbers for the US
Right. So
population, not school
they're out
age.
there trying to raise kids and make a bean. All right. 43 million.
So yeah,
I
think of how many are in schools from, say, let's just say, first grade to 12th grade. How many are in the school system? And, and how many are in high school? How many high schoolers? How many ninth through 12th graders do we have in the United States? It's got to be a lot. And so add that to the 43 million.
This is it. And the number is actually getting higher within the kids segment
Hmm.
of where they're at level wise. Do you know what I'm saying? Like the numbers are pretty
Yeah.
atrocious. Like the reading level, comprehension and all that of like seventh, eighth graders, like a big, huge fat number is like a fourth, fifth grade level, right? So the numbers they're like we said, the numbers are going to get worse because we already have numbers that are starting to show that with the
Yeah.
pipeline of these poor kids that are in there now. And so you just really think about this. He had a point about how we're literally going to be, and I don't know, this is going to sound crazy, but it's no surprise that the world has become, maybe particularly the United States, although there are other countries as well, but I feel like we've really kind of reached the bar with it in the legal environment we live in. All right, you can't rent a movie. Well, you don't rent movies now. You can't rent a car. All right, you can't do anything. You have documentation out the wazoo. All right, you cannot, it's like everything is a legal document. If I get a box from a cable company to a, it's like I'm buying a car over here, Never mind if you buy a house. You got 5,000 back to the person who can't read well. What are we doing? And also number 2, out of the 43 million people, how many more, Sarah, do we really want to add to this that are just kind of not good readers?
Right. And some of those numbers where it
Because
said medium to high. Well, there's a whole range in there. And that was for the high, like the 79% medium to high literacy skills. What is medium?
that's what I'm saying. How
Yeah,
well does
exactly.
medium function in this legalistic world we're in now, and where comprehension is off the chain for, I don't care how smart you are. What, I got to bring my attorney with me to go to a doctor? I mean, what are we doing right now? So and that's people of high functioning literacy are confused. All right. So you can only imagine the poor person that's, and I don't mean poor financially, in total having this totally looming dark cloud over them, problem, having to confront all this stuff. Does it keep people away from medical care? Does it keep people from buying houses? Does it keep people from getting an attorney maybe because they feel too stupid? Oh, they're going to figure out I can't read. I went through so many scenarios about what a day in a life or a 10-year lifespan as an adult would look like, not being able to read at a pretty high functioning level or write, and I was terrified.
We should all do it. We should all sit in that for a day. I would love. We used to give homework assignments on the show. We still do from time to time. I would love for everyone who's listening, to all of us, myself included. Let's take a day of our life and just go through. Let's pretend I can't read and write today. What would that be like? And to gain some empathy for these individuals who are severely struggling. I can't imagine, Laura, you broke my heart when you started talking. And it's like, I've never thought about that before. And I have another number here too that I didn't read previously. 54% of adults have a literacy below a sixth grade level.
Yeah, that's the one I wrote down.
20% are below fifth grade. Now, this was not 54% of the whatever percent. This is just 54% of adults have below a sixth grade level and 20% below fifth grade level.
Exactly.
So I
That's what I had. 54% of American adults reading below a sixth grade level and 20% under a fifth grade level, and 1 in 5 can't read.
Yeah.
One in
3 out of
five, Sarah.
4, 1 in 5, 3 out of 4 people on welfare can't read. That's staggering. 3
Well,
out
no,
of
it
4
makes
people.
total sense as to
Yeah.
why they're on welfare. And this is my whole point. I mean, if we're busy talking about cutting this and snapping that and breaking snap and building more affordable housing in inner cities where they got the crappy school. Listen, why don't we talk about this for a minute? Why don't we talk about spending some money? Or never mind. I don't even want to get into that. But Sarah, I do want to say this. I talked to my buddy Jordan last night. I called him because, you know, I'm just getting hot. I was about teary and mad at the same time. So I called Jordan because I got to thinking about, you know, when we talked to Cleopatra from Dismas House,
Yes.
and Jordan, our friend Jordan works there as well. And Dismas House in Nashville, Tennessee is a really successful reentry program for people coming out of
Yeah.
the system of jail. And I asked him, I wanted to see if he could give me a personal thing, if he knew. And no, it's not what he does or this, that, or the other thing. But I asked him if he could speak to this at all. And I told him the statistic, and he goes, well, that doesn't surprise me. He goes, I don't know that I feel like it's that high of who we see and hear. He goes, but we see it. And now, mind you, I think their house only accommodates, I'm going to get this totally wrong. I want to say like 24 or something people at a time. But he goes, but no, it's here. And he goes, I was talking to one guy about it one day, and I said, you know, he goes, do you feel like you want to jump in and try and learn? And he goes, oh yeah, you know. Um, and he said, but I gotta, you know, I sort of, I'm paraphrasing everything here, but the gist of it is that he had a bad taste in his mouth because he did attempt this. And I don't know if it was on more than one occasion, but he felt so shamed by the person that was teaching him, trying to teach him. They were impatient, and he goes, and you know, I'm sitting there going, yeah, this wrong person for the job brought out everything you live with every day. You want to talk about a trigger? You're going to go in there to try and remedy the situation, and now you got somebody that's supposed to be helping you, making you feel every bit as horrible as why you didn't come in for help in the first place. This is a horrible cycle to be caught in. Okay. And I can, this is a problem. I had another epiphany that really troubled me as well. And I'm not going to get stuck here for very long, but it bothered me to no end because I thought of some people that I've actually heard in my own space. But I got to thinking about what this means for the inability to read the Bible. Mm-hmm. And so again, you know, for some people, that might be something that really turns a life around or turns a family around or whatever for them. All right. And it's a total block. And I have heard in religious, so many are circles before about, you know, it coming out. And I have been a speaker on this, not a speaker as in I was the guest speaker. I have spoken to people bringing up the point that, you know, I feel like having Bible study is important because a lot of people have a struggle reading it. And I have heard more than one time them quote scripture about how God wrote it for anyone to be able to read. And I have to say to myself, last night when I thought about this, it made me super teary. And I was just like, except of course for those who could not read. All right. You got 43 million people. You got 54% of the adult population that reads at a 6th grade and below level. I'm sorry. That's a problem. Now, I will say I will pick it up for the tech torch here in that there's never been a better time, I guess, from some aspects, because at least you can listen to a book being read. And at least do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
But you know as well as I do, that bothers me because the whole reading a book in your
mhm.
own time and in your own with your own highlighter and with your own what you're bringing at the time when you want to pull it out. And I don't care if it's Shakespeare or the Bible, whatever gives you some sort of solace or is trying to give you a deeper meaning into something or whatever, and you just can't jump in there in that intimate way, is a problem.
Well, and that's the thing, audiobooks, because somebody is going to say, well, they have audiobooks. It's like, well, audiobooks and the written word are not the same thing. I have covered this in depth with my other co-host on another podcast that I co-host on. We did an entire episode on audiobooks because there seems to be this whole trend, this whole thing, like, oh, I read all these books but they were all on audio, and that's fine. And I'm not. You can do
They
whatever
have
you
their
want.
space. They're
They
great.
have their space.
Hmm.
I use audiobooks at particular times for particular things. I love audiobooks. It's great. But it's not the same thing
No.
cognitively. It does not hit the same places in your brain as reading the words, okay? It is very different, and it is not, I'm going to say this very very clearly, it is not a substitute for reading the written word. Audiobooks have a place and a time, but they cannot take the place of actually reading. That is not
Right.
healthy at all. And we've got to protect literacy. We've got to champion literacy on so many levels, Lori. We have to.
I
And
agree.
one of the
I
go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to throw that out there because my point to this is that I feel like the inability to read affects someone's life from every single aspect.
It
And
does.
because I'm sorry, you can, I mean, back to the just the Bible example, but you can read, you could listen to that, but if you can't get commentary,
Mhm.
footnotes,
Cross
historic,
reference. You
cro-
can't. Yeah,
listen,
it's
no, it's a book that was meant to be read.
yes.
Now, again, not against it, because if something gets in there and it was spoke to you, then that's the God's work, and that's how it's going to work. It's fantastic, but it's just not the same, Sarah. And by and large, I just like the people. I just don't want to see people make people out to be unaffected and just made out to just go to people being lazy as the go-to for literally everything. And uh, I don't think anybody chooses laziness. That's like saying I choose boredom and I choose, going out of my mind for not a work of my hands or my mind or something. Nobody. Okay. And the only people that, you know, don't aren't employed or whatever, this is why the drinking and the drug situation. And it's just this cycle. And listen, there are people who know this. And it's operating absolutely at high efficiency.
Yeah.
And so with that, we'll wrap up with a couple things that maybe we can talk about how I think we should, whoever feels moved by this topic, perhaps we should discuss a little bit about maybe what some ideas, Sarah. What did you think about some ideas?
Well, and one of the big things that, so if, talking about tackling this issue and what are things that we can do, small things even that we can do to improve literacy and to ensure literacy. I mean, one of the biggest things, and I've said this so many times, and it's not a small thing,
Here it comes.
is
I'm going to do it.
read to your children,
Oh yeah.
read to babies. Literacy
Yeah.
starts at birth.
Hmm.
It's actually can start in the womb. You can talk to your child. You can read to your child while they're in the womb, but
Hmm.
literacy starts at birth. Babies, infants, toddlers, it doesn't matter. Read to them every single day, right? Read. If you're a daycare worker, if you're a nanny, if you're a grandparent, aunt, uncle, sibling, parent, it doesn't just have to be parents, right? Like whoever, if you come in contact with a child, if you work in a church and you've got your children in a small, like the baby class or whatever, like wherever you are, if you come in contact with children and you have the opportunity to read to them, read to them. But Lori, another statistic that we didn't cover yet, and this is heartbreaking, is that um it is, oh, I think I've almost lost it. Hang on. Where did that one go? It was well, I had it right here. Yes, here we go. Okay, it is 130 million adults. Okay, that's more than a quarter of the US population. 130 million adults are now unable to read a simple story to their children. So, the trickle down effect that you were talking about, this is where it's coming, and it's not that those children can't become literate, but this is where it begins. And how sad would it be, how heartbreaking, how heart-wrenching to not be able to read to your child. But for those who do have literacy, we've got to start with young children, because it's not just about teaching phonics and teaching them how to read. It's about teaching them the value of reading, of stories,
The love
of,
of words, which
yeah,
are
the love of
stories.
words,
Hmm.
developing in them this need and this love and this excitement and this intrigue into literacy and reading. And there's so many that you can read to them, you can act it out, you can do all the voices. Take the time. I think the screens are a big part of this, Lori, that parents are so busy these days, and every single one of us on this planet is self-involved, whether we want to admit it or not, at some point in time in our lives, right? We are
Amen.
all, even if we're working on it, right? And there's a lot of stuff that gets pushed to the side. And so kids are given a tablet, a phone. I mean, babies are sat in front of iPads. Put the iPads away, please, and pull out books, even if whatever your circumstance is and you don't have the time, you can't make the time, or you can't read the book. That's okay. Give them lots of books. You can go to Dollar Tree, you can go to Ross, Marshall's, TJ Maxx and get some cheap books. You can go to Goodwill, you can go to thrift stores. You can find books that you can afford, no matter what you have, a
People
million
are
dollar
giving them
budget
away.
or a 10-cent budget. It doesn't matter. Right.
People
Yard
are giving them away. People
sales.
don't even value books anymore.
Go to the library. Absolutely. Go to the library and check books out, but have lots of books around your children and let them just at least open them up, point to things, you know, make silly voices, make up your own story, but get them interested from that very early level. We have got to make sure that we are teaching from birth the importance and the value and the excitement of literacy. So that is, to me, that's the most important thing. And that is, I believe, what we have lost a lot of in our society, from what you were talking back, going back through the history, and how, all these books that these fifth graders were reading in the 1800s, and all of this. I think there's so much of what we have lost is that early education in the home with the family. What is being utilized in the home? What do they have access to in the home? What is being promoted in the home? And right now, I'm sorry, but in the majority of homes across the world, but definitely in the United States of America, it is screen time, screen time, screen time. So that is probably the biggest way, in my opinion, that we could take steps. And I don't care if you have a 13-year-old, a 10-year-old, you say, well, it's too late now. No, take the screens away. Let them be mad at you for a couple of weeks and
Please.
introduce some new things. Like, I mean, it's never too late. I don't care. Even if you have a teenager, it is going to be a lot harder if they're already 15, 16, 17 years old. But don't ever look at something as it's too late and be defeatist about it and then just give up. Right.
Yeah.
And if you find you have a problem, if you find that your child or a child that you're close to is struggling with literacy, find ways to get in there now and work on it now. Do not ignore the problem. Do not shuffle off the problem, because a lot of times we ignore things thinking, if we don't think out of sight, out of mind, if I don't think about it, I don't have to deal with it. We need to deal with it.
Clearly, we're ignoring things. I mean, I think we're getting high marks for that. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like we need to start, if anybody was moved by this, to start just messaging this, and what Sarah said is a just, again, we always like to drill down on our own personal level because everything starts in the home.
Yeah.
So pick well what you start, and or get on the train to stopping some things and reinserting with a love of the word, and introduce words in ways that aren't just on the screen, get kids to theater and all the things. But I aside from that, if you're moved by this, I was sat and I was trying to think, what can I do, Lori? I mean, it's a pretty big problem. And it's, again, we tend to get this self-defeatist thing where it's just like, it's too big for me. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't, what am I going to do? Well, here's one thing I know is a waste of time, is ramming towards the machine. Forget that. I want to know what we can do to take it back, because
Right.
there was no machine in the 17 and the 1800s in America, okay, to give cover for as an excuse for why someone doesn't read.
Yep.
Okay. And, I think we need to kick it some old school, in that if we care about our communities, our families, our communities, and how well that people are thriving, because people are struggling hard and it's getting worse. So if this is one of the things that is, in fact, quite possibly could be a very big indicator for a life going off the rail, I think this is one to really look at.
Yeah.
And this makes me almost comforted in that, hey, anybody that can read could help. And I just want people, number one, if you are somebody who teaches people, like in an adult education setting, or tutors people for reading or whatever, we'd love to have you email us at the show. Also, if you are somebody that we're talking about today, I would love for you to, reach out to us
Yes.
on the show. And I would love to put together some more information on this down the road, maybe. But I had a couple ideas. Number one, I think um, this is an opportunity for churches to get involved in their community, to open up, people who want to volunteer to come in and help people learn the beauty of words. Um, and I also think that if you belong to a book club, and your book club wants to kind of collectively do some good in the world, use that beautiful thing of judging books and discussing books and all that. And maybe you find a way to help a person learn how to read. Okay. And maybe you volunteer once a month and you take turns. And so people are getting some one-on-one time. I was just trying to figure out how can we, and I need people that have ideas to let us know, and we can help promote those. But listen, if I could, I feel like it's sort of how I felt whenever somebody would tell me that they decided to get their kids out of the system after coming to my thing or whatever. And it's just like, yeah, well, that was you. I just happened to be the one that maybe pushed you, or whatever. But I love it. And if you listen, then this is not for naught, you know, man. If I could go to my grave knowing I helped one person learn how to read, I would hang that as high as anything I've done. Because honestly, I can't imagine this, and I'm sad about it. Clearly, Sarah, you're going to rethink this YouTube thing
No.
with this,
No. No, this is real. This is what we
with the
need.
raw
And
broad over here.
we need this. We need this honesty and authenticity in the world, in our fake, facade of a world that we live in today. And yeah, it's Lori, forgetting all the other subjects that are considered school subjects and all these things that we feel, whether you, if you're a homeschool parent, you know, you feel pressured to make sure they get all of this in. And if you're a teacher in the school system, you've got to follow all of these things and make sure you get all these guidelines done. The most important thing is knowing how and learning how to read. And I've said this so many times, and I will continue to preach this at the top of every mountain that I can possibly stand on, that if you can read, and we're talking about literacy, being able to read and understand what you're reading, right? If you can read efficiently, you can learn anything. That is
Even
the
math.
foundation of education. You don't need a classes and special teachers and big courses, and you don't need a bunch of fancy fanfare, right? To be educated. If you have access to knowledge, you have access to books, and you can read, you can learn anything, anytime, anywhere, and you can be as educated as you want to be, as you allow yourself to be.
That's it.
Reading is core. It is the
So much.
foundation of all of what we call education. But we're pouring so much time and energy into all of these other things and frustrating children's young minds to try to teach all of this stuff and meet all of these criteria that they have to meet and all of these government standards, and we're pushing them through, and they're exhausted and they're tired and they hate school, and then they graduate and they can't read. We
Sarah,
have got to turn this train around.
would somebody explain to me, please? I'm open, sorta, but I'd try to be open. I'd try and reopen it. Somebody bring me the case of why it takes 13 years to learn blank. Any of it. Why? What is? Show me that. And don't even get me started on the sports teams we glorify. There, I read a thing many years ago about the outcome scholastically for many of these players, and now they get paid. And so the pressure, okay, you're an 11 the game, that's great. You're fantastic at the game, and that's great. But injuries, oh, you might age out. Uh, Nobody, cares. They just want to sit in the stands on the Saturday or the Saturday, and they just want to pretend like this is the cream of the crop. And meanwhile, backstage, you might have a very large number on that team that's struggling with reading. And if they don't get a major contract, now they got to lean on something else, right? And they know they've been leaning pretty hard into the sport. Listen, all I'm saying is I think that it is incumbent upon coaching, on people within the church body, people in the like we started the show. If you can't identify and then be that safe place for somebody to vocalize this problem for them, because this is how it's going to start. This is how we're going to find people to help, because a lot of these people, they're in the shadows, man.
Yeah.
And you remember when Amy was on the show from Southeast Community College, because
Yeah.
she teaches in the prison system, and her thing about how she wished all of her, community college students were as engaged as these people are that are because they're trying. Like there's a segment that really wants to get it right, and then there's a segment they can't read, and it's just there's a lot of good people and there's a lot of readers out there, so we need to figure out how to piggyback all that and turn back a skill that should have been covered, which is giving people a whole new platform for which to operate their lives from. And these people, by the way, are going to be amazing, like when you add on how they've had to side angle stuff their whole life. They've learned skills that haven't been put to paper. They're, you know, the ability to read has nothing to do with somebody's IQ.
No, no, it doesn't. And it will never cease to amaze me, Lori. How much we talk about progress and where we've come and all these innovations. And I'm thinking about this history where you had people hundreds of years ago who couldn't read, and if someone in their family learned to read and was like the only one who could read, and what a big accomplishment this was. And we see
Exactly.
stories like this that get elevated, and you're like, oh, wow, that's beautiful. And we're talking, this is hundreds of years ago. And now we find ourselves in 2025 and we're still there. We've had some accomplishments, but now it's like we're regressing and we're going back to this pitiful time when
100%.
people were oppressed by their lack and their inability to educate themselves through the written word.
That's it.
We have this should
This
have
is everything.
everybody
This
on
is
edge.
politics. This is
Yes.
religion. This is family life. This is addictions. This is the prison system. This is everything. When you consider these numbers, okay? Because
Yeah.
what if half of those numbers went away? What would that do to the 2.2 trillion? I mean, I'm just saying that you want to
Yeah.
talk about a domino effect, and how will it change a family from that point on? I'm sorry, but we've come so far and blah blah blah. It's to
No,
me
we're going backwards.
to
And
me though, that blabber sounds like, what it's gross. It sounds like it sounds elitist. It sounds like total, like, you want to talk about something that sounds privileged. Everybody that wants to run behind oh, look how far we've come and stuff like that is just blind to anything beyond their own 6 foot
we
life.
haven't come far. We are free falling at incredible speeds right now,
100%.
and we need a parachute fast.
Yeah. So we got sicker kids who can't read, kids who are addicted faster, kids who can't, socialize because they're on screens. What are we doing to the kids? Listen, we're about 1.5 generations away from completely shutting this thing down. All right. And I'm going to be dead and gone. All right. And if we don't care, then we don't care. So while you're thinking about your carbon footprint, I would like for people to think about human footprints. And we need to really think about who's coming up behind us. All right.
Yes.
And the struggle. The earth is a struggle. I don't care. It's a struggle for everybody. But not having something as fundamental, it's like, I mean, at this point, it's like air, water, food, shelter, and reading. I feel like needs to make the list.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I'm 100% with you. And it's not too late for this youngest, newest generation that's growing up right now. Some of them, the Gen Alphas, some of them are getting a little bit older. They're in fifth and sixth grade, maybe seventh grade even. But there's a lot of young Gen Alphas too. And so if let's hit that generation hard. Teachers in the school system, do what you have to do. Stand up, be bold, be brave, and fight for these kids. If maybe they don't have that means at home. We don't know everyone's situation, but we've
Well,
all
we
got
know
to.
that a lot of them don't, and I
Yeah,
sympathize with teachers for that, but
yeah,
it's a problem. It's a generational problem. Most of the people that they can't cooperate with the school because of their kids probably didn't have any help through schooling
hmm
from this is a generational
it is.
issue, Sarah. I guarantee it.
It
It
is.
goes hand in hand with the poverty thing and the addiction
Yes,
thing. I absolutely feel strongly in my core about that. Number wise, doesn't matter. I'm not saying everybody, whatever.
right, right.
It's like that guy on the thing talking about, if you don't understand statistics.
Yes,
Was that guy
yes.
great?
He was. It was very interesting. It was very something we don't think about a lot. Um, and Lori, this is not directly related to literacy, but I think it's related to our topic as a whole today and like the future and where things are going. I caught an excerpt from another podcast a couple days ago, and I don't know who the expert was on that this podcast host was interviewing, but I just it came across my feed, and what struck me was, and I've heard this before, this is not the first time I've heard this, and I think this is something we should pay attention to also in light of this, because here's the future society that we're looking at. And it was talking about Gen Z specifically, which is a broad generation. It's from like 2000 to 2012. So, it's a pretty broad generation. But it was talking about the number of Gen Zs who are, as adults now, are relying heavily on their parents in that, like, to call the boss if they have to call in sick, getting mom to call the boss, getting a parent to go to work with them, getting a parent to go to a meeting with them or facilitate a meeting with the boss because
Mhm.
something needs to be discussed. Or there's a whole list of things
Mhm.
that I couldn't even fathom as an adult, bringing my mother or my father in to do for me. I'm an adult. I have to go like you're an adult holding down a job, but you're treating it as like you're still in school and your parent has to go talk to the teacher or the principal or take a note in or sign you out or what. This mentality, and this is the future. So we're talking about illiteracy, and
No,
then
this
we're
is
looking,
now, Sarah. I
yeah,
mean,
right.
this is where we
But I
find
mean,
ourselves.
but think about how much worse it's going to get.
Oh, I
Yeah,
know.
this is where we're at now. And then, like
Mhm.
you said, the next generation and a half, or the next 10 years, the next 20 years, what does our society look like if we don't start taking these topics right here very seriously and doing something about it?
Mhm. 100%,
So,
Sarah. Well, I said we were going to come in under 2 hours. Oh, that was a
it's
lie,
we
but I didn't
won't
mean it
count
as a lie.
the beginning, our
I
introductory
know. See, I should have
banter.
shut up
There you
about that.
go.
Oh my
No,
gosh.
it's good. We want to encourage people in the new year. Hey, listen, it's a new year. Get healthy, get reading. Let's do these things. Let's make 2026 the year of health and literacy. All right, let's do it.
let's just not, we need to really examine the gift that reading is.
Yeah.
And people who love the word of book, just words. I mean, and I do, and
Mhm.
people who love to write and people who love to speak and people who love to read. And it's like, can we use that as a superpower, Sarah? So I don't know,
Yep.
but please, two broadcasters at gmail.com. You could email us anything about this cast, and we'll put it into the consideration hopper for future things that we want to talk about in regards to this. But I'm going to be sharing this in some of the circles of people that I know and see if I just can at least start getting this plugged into people's heads. And I would love it if you would particularly care to share this cast. Um, it's just, there's just some information we just shouldn't, you don't know who, you might have thought this cast was sort of okay, but I'm telling you something, this is huge. And you don't know who that the person you might share it with shares it with. And this is what we're doing here.
Yep.
Okay. This is what we're doing here. All great things and all horrible things are things that are shared. So let's start sharing some of this good stuff and not, like, that was cute. Oh, that's interesting. And, no, if you were a little bit horrified or saddened or whatever your never mind, whatever the objective, is that the word?
Objective? Is that
No,
what you were trying to think of? What?
no, it's
What are you saying? What are
adjective.
you saying? I was like, what are you saying?
Adjective. That's what I was trying to
Adjective.
say.
Describing words.
I
Adjective.
I love how this topic and I seemingly clash completely. However, not really. I'm feeling more and more blessed for my ability to read, and I'm very thankful. I grew up around someone who loved to read, and I listen. It's Sarah said it too. You watch somebody love reading, and you kind of want to, emulate the first people you know.
Yeah. And Lori, I just
So,
want to throw in there, because you just said it all, is that the other side of this is for all of us who are literate, who do have a high literacy level or any literacy level, like we're able to read a book. Don't take that for granted.
right.
Use it. Go read, go discuss ideas, go think in your head and analyze and formulate thoughts and information about what you're reading. Like, I think we take it for granted. And again, the screens, okay, are a big part of that. And I just like, you've made me think about what if I couldn't read or write? Man, the fact that I can, I need to make sure every day I am thankful for that, that I am utilizing that skill to the best of my ability and passing it on to others. So, yeah, don't take it for granted.
Right. And that really made me think about that last night because I do take it for granted. Who doesn't? I can read. Yeah. I mean, huh? No, it's kind of a big deal.
It's worth
And
more than what you have in the bank account. It's worth more than any amount that you could earn at any job. There is no
it's power.
monetary value that you can put on literacy and reading.
Yep. And the people hundreds of years ago knew it was power. So here we are. Let's get our power back, people. If you really want to
Yeah.
be an activist, how about we activist getting people reading? That would be a good activity to activist.
All right. Let's do it.
Made no
Thank you,
sense
Lori.
whatsoever. I love you, Sarah
I
Jenkins.
love
Hey,
you.
find us on the socials, share the cast. We're out of here. You're sick of us, but I love us. What do we got? We just got a couple broads who are loving showing up for you. So share it. Find us Facebook, Instagram, and our email. And you'll actually send us your email address and we'll send you stuff through your box.
All
Bye.
right.